Hi everybody, welcome to Fireside Friday. This is our second attempt at this. So I'm going to pass over to Haley to ask me a few questions and see what I can summon up of worth in my answers.
So being Friday, January the 15th, David, you're wearing a black shirt. What does that symbolize and why are you wearing it?
So I'm wearing a black shirt because it's Black Shirt Day in BC, and I'm actually not sure whether it is beyond BC, but something came up fairly quickly that Martin Luther King's actual birthday, which is today, should be celebrated in conjunction with an acknowledgement of everything that happened with the Black Lives Matter movement and racism in general, which, as you know, this has been quite a year for bringing some of these issues to light and some real progress, dare I say it, has been made. So this Black Shirt Day is to recognise that. Martin Luther King Day itself is actually on Monday, but. So leaders have to role model the right behaviour, so that's what I'm doing.
And, with everything happening around BC today, how are you feeling?
Well, I'm, like everyone, I'm feeling a mixture of not quite relaxed, vigilant, but I'm still overall really positive and confident about getting through this whole pandemic. Not going to lie, we've been comfortable as you can be in a pandemic on the island here for quite some time. Numbers of 4 and 5 were commonplace for us, and in stark contrast to the numbers of exposures that other parts of the province and indeed the country and the world have been facing. So yeah, we've had it good, if you can say that, relatively speaking. So recent slight surge in numbers in our valley, in our local area, obviously caused a bit more concern, but it just really gave us an opportunity to recommit to our protocols, to all the things that we've developed as our best attempt to navigate safely through these challenging times.
And what you were just talking about there, you've inferred that there might be a rise in some anxiety within our community and indeed our student population. What advice would you like to give to anyone who's experiencing those feelings?
Yeah, that's a good question, Haley. I think we have to acknowledge that we're all different and everybody processes things in a different way. We all plot somewhere on this spectrum of tolerance to fear and stress and anxiety. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's we've got to look on that as a positive. But as someone who has a relatively high tolerance, maybe just honed over all these years of, dare I say it, working with teenagers, there's that great line that I often used to quote, "You can't scare me, I've had teenagers." So I have a high tolerance, but I think I say to everybody else, first of all, you have to acknowledge how you're feeling, not pretend that you're okay if you're not okay, and then talk to people, because as we know in time-honored fashion, sometimes just talking something out, talking out your feelings with someone really helps. And we've got a number of people that are really willing to have these conversations, including myself. I actually don't find those conversations an intrusion. I actually quite like having them. So yeah, talk it out with whoever you can.
And again, you just inferred, of course, you've been in education a long time. What are some of your key learnings throughout your experience in the education world?
Wow, how long have we got? Yeah, I'll try and be brief as I can be. I think that kids, one of the things I actually learned from a student, as we often do, who said to me, when I was getting quite upset because a kid that I had worked closely with and I thought I had a really good relationship with had made a bad decision. And I was taking it all personally, and this guy said to me, this young man said to me, he said, "Mr. Robertson, it's nothing to do with you. It's just what happens with young people. And remember, they're not bad people. They're good people making bad decisions. And when you look at it like that, you tend not to start judging the person by the decision. And then that takes you quickly to not being judgmental. And I think in schools, we have to avoid at all costs being judgmental by putting people into boxes and categorizing them, because they're forever growing, and they're growing at all sorts of different rates. And we may, as parents, get frustrated that one child seems to have caught on and hit all the marks at the right, if there are such things, at the right times, and the other one is slower. And so I go back to that other great line that I've lived with for years, that not all the flowers bloom at the same time. And if you avoid being, though, judgmental with kids, you allow them space to grow and develop. And as soon as they feel that they've been written off, then just good things won't happen. They won't respond the same way. Their belief in themselves takes a nosedive, and everything else goes down with it. So teachers and people working with young people have to avoid ever conveying to a kid that they've lost faith in them.
That's a valuable one, and of course leads into your personal non-negotiables. It sculpts you as a person. So for you, additionally to what you just touched on, what are some of your non-negotiables in life?
Right. So you try to have not too many non-negotiables, because then you become very rigid. And again, with young people, rigidity doesn't necessarily always produce the best results, right? You're trying to have a give and take approach with them up to a point. But in terms of non-negotiables, for me, rudeness is just a non-negotiable. I can't stand it in society, and I just can't stand it between adults, and I can't stand it with young people to each other and young people to adults. So I guess rudeness is my principal non-negotiable. Because with rudeness, we're not following one of the fundamental precepts of life in my book. We're not being aware of other people and respecting them. Because rudeness, we're actually doing the opposite. We're thinking of ourselves, and we're just dismissing the other person as irrelevant or unimportant. And that's not what we want to model in life, and that's not how we create harmonious societies. So that's my biggest one. Do I have another one? I guess apathy is a non-negotiable. We only get one go at this whole life business, and we've got to take it and make it the best we can in all sorts of different ways. And I think apathy is a misuse of the gifts that we've all been given. And in some cases, and particularly with young people, they don't understand that these are gifts. And in fact, some of them might say they don't have gifts, but we, the adults, the parents and the educators, have to help them realize that they do have gifts. They all have gifts. And so not using those gifts is not acceptable in my world. There we go.
Well, thank you very much for your time today, David.
Thank you. Thanks, Hayley. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.